one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it.
Do that. Let's do that.
Woo-hoo!
Let's do that. Let's do it.
Chris Stone.
My man, Dan Jordan.
I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm a little a lunatic today. I realize that I get energy from people. This is why this whole virus situation has been just at the beginning, it was devastating to me because I realized, I mean, that's where I get my stuff from. Right. Mm-hmm. And so you had done something earlier in the week by sending me a little note of thanks for the season and all that. And I won't embarrass you with how gushing you were, please, with a little, but I won't do, but I realized how good I felt that I've been spending the next days and just right up until this moment, I've been spitting through my phone and just calling people, expressing my, giving them well wishes and expressing. And I love to talk to my guest about this, but the results, not only business wise, but other stuff, but man, the energy that is filling my body right now is too much for one human being. And so I'm going to let it all hang out here for you guys. That's simple. So that's why I'm apologizing in advance.
Well, okay. So not only are you at Dan Jordan level, which is like 13 for most people, you're above even that today. So I'm glad that you've warned everybody, but I will tell you this. After I sent you that text,
yes,
and it was pretty early in the morning. After I hit send, I fully expected a phone call like that. Like you're the kind of person that if you text and you get it, it's not there's not typically a reply on text. It's like a Dan Jordan's calling.
That's
right.
Right.
That's exactly what my ringtone is, by the way.
The reason for that is I was crying. It's the truth.
Oh, man.
That's the truth.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I'm actually tearing up now. That's how freakishly emotional I am. So that's where we go. But you know what is even better than getting a call like that is finally getting an opportunity to work with one of the stalwarts in sales that's been around forever, has been a leader in the industry in terms of social selling. And finally, I've been able to wrangle her away from the throngs of people beckoning her to be on their show. Please help me welcome, without any further ado, my new best friend, Brynne Tillman. Come on down.
Woohoo! She's pumping. She's raising the roof.
Yeah, that's right. She's doing.
I love it.
You see,
thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for making this happen. I know how in demand you are with how special you are with your stuff. By the way, you should know this. I hear things in song. I mean, that's just how I remember things. And so your song goes to the tune of what's that? I don't know the show. Brynne Tillman is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so
That's
far
green.
and
It's
wide.
Green Acres.
Oh, Green Acres.
Yeah, it's Green Acres. That's it. Yeah. So
Sorry.
You are the Green Acres. That's how I see your song. So pleased to have you. When I first got started, actually the beginning of this year, just doing more and more on LinkedIn, and I committed at the beginning of the year to do a video every day, and I've done a video every working day. And I was looking around to who else is making a difference online, and your name comes up like first. I mean, like, first, you are, the LinkedIn kind of social media gal. When did you get started with this whole thing, and how and why?
A really long time ago. So, I mean, I've been doing this a dozen plus years at this point. The how and why is interesting. So, I was always in sales and I was a sales trainer. And, I had one challenge in sales is that I did not love the cold call. I did it well, but I wasn't happy cold calling. And I had an experience where I was sitting across from a client staring at his overflowing Rolodex, thinking if I could get my hands on this, I could identify who he knew that I wanted to meet, ask for introductions, and never have to cold call again. Well, when I saw LinkedIn a couple decades later, I recognized that it solved my problem because I am now able to filter and search my connections, identify who they know, have a conversation, and either get introductions or permission to name drop. And it was a game changer in sales, absolutely game changer. So I just decided, I'm going to give up the rest of the sales training world and hand it over to people that are way better at it than I am and focus on what I'm really, really good at, which is social selling.
That is beautiful. Well, so now you said that was a decade ago.
Even
You
more,
basically you basically just gave me the keys to the kingdom. You gave me your whole training course. Basically, go on LinkedIn, find out who people know, friends of friends, get permission either for a referral or to name drop. That's it. So everybody knows that. Why are so few people doing it and doing it well?
Well, so let's start with, although that's the game changer, there are a lot of other moving parts.
You see, Chris Stone, this is it. Now she has to make it complicated to prove value here.
Moving parts aren't free either. Like,
I'll give all 5 moving parts for free. Ready?
Oh, awesome.
Okay. First, you need to have a profile that's a resource, not a resume. Because all roads lead back to your brand, and all roads, when they get to that profile, are going to determine whether or not you earn the right to get the conversation.
Ooh, wait, hold on. I don't want you to go to number 2 yet, because that's gold right there. So when you say a resource and brand, what do you mean?
So first of all, instead of starting by telling everybody, we help companies just like yours do this and this, actually help them. You can get to how you help later on, but start with being that resource. Start with bringing value. We know from a corporate visions study that 74% of buyers choose the rep and company that's first to add value and insight. So our profile is often one of the very first impressions that these folks are getting of us. It should be offering value and insight. And so our profile needs to do 5 things. So we have 5 things you need to do, and then there's a subtext to one of the things, which is...
Hey, Chris Stone, can you pull up her LinkedIn profile when you get it?
Ooh, let's hope I'm practicing what I teach.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Content and our profile work kind of hand in hand, because the content is our brand. The profile is our relatively static brand, right? So we need it to resonate with the buyer. So they lean in and go, they work with people like me. Then we need to create curiosity. And whether we're talking about your profile or your content, if we don't get them to lean in and be curious, we lose them. And so if our goal is to get a sales conversation and we can't resonate or create curiosity, we lose it very quickly in the process. The third one is we have to teach them something new. So when we teach them something new, they go, there's value here. I'm interested in continuing to read. Because then what we taught them, that aha moment, needs to get them thinking differently about their current situation. That's how we earn the right to get a conversation, because they're not going to talk to us if there's no value. Number 5 is what we've done needs to create a compelling moment. And the compelling moment can be anything from they accept your connection request, they ask you to connect, they like or comment on something, right? If we can move our lurkers to engagers, we can start conversations. And until we do that, we don't know who they are. We can't start conversations with people that we don't know who they are.
So lurkers to engagers. So somebody comments on your post? You're saying comment on a post or comment on your profile altogether?
So it's interesting, right? So our profile, although is relatively static, does have our activity. It does have, in many cases, featured content where people can engage. So it's sort of this hybrid of sorts, right? So the profile and the content, they do overlap in what we need to do in order to convert our connections to conversations. They both have a very similar role.
Okay. Oh, okay. Go number 2. Go ahead.
Number 2 is social listening. So this is something we need to do before we go to market. We need to understand who are our buyers, where are they hanging out, what's the content they care about, what are the challenges they're facing, who are their clients and what do they care about, right? So we need to just slow it down and learn, and we need to listen to understand before we listen to react. One of the mistakes we make as salespeople is we notice something, we're like, I got an answer. I'm going to react. I can solve that. But we have to just slow it down a little bit and just listen to understand so that I can easily define the challenge they're facing. Because until I can do that, I can't really solve it.
Well, a lot of people can't even don't know the problem that they're facing. Like if you're helping people, sometimes people need sales. They think they need sales training, but really they need lead generation. They got nothing to sell to. How do you get them to that point?
Well, so a lot of that, so there's that's where we everything kind of bridges together, right? So the social listening becomes engaging. And I believe if that's your challenge, that you don't know what their challenge is, then we need to ask them. We need to ask them in polls. We need to ask their opinion in content, right? So we put something out and then we reach out to our prospects and we just say, hey, Dan, as a sales trainer that's, foremost in the industry, I'd love your one-click vote on a poll. And what is the number one challenge you're seeing VP of sales face today? I don't know, whatever that might be. But we're asking thought leaders in the industry what they think. We're asking our prospects what they think. And a lot of people are like, polls are everywhere. It's such noise. They work, I promise you. But just because you build them doesn't mean they'll come. You have to invite them. So we need to use the poll as an outbound sales technique.
Oh,
and then all of a sudden we get now, so that we have content and prospecting, like they're all kind of laced together because we're getting social listening in our asking. But when we send that out, I actually don't just ask you for your opinion. And, once you've voted on this, Dan, when the poll closes, you will automatically get the results and notifications. And I'll be very happy to share all the insights we glean from this with you personally. So now I've left it open for me to call you back to discuss the results. I already told you it's going to happen. So once you vote, there's already an expectation that I'm going to share the benchmarks that we've identified in this research.
Very cool. And can anybody do that? I mean,
Anyone.
Let's say just, so like you're dealing with just a line salesman, just somebody or salesperson who's just out there. They can do that all.
Absolutely. Polls are free. They're in the free LinkedIn.com. There are some things that you want to make sure you're doing around polls, and I'm happy to talk about it. You also need to do step 4, which is take inventory. Right. So one of the mistakes that we make, and this will all come back to polls in a minute, but we post polls. We need to know, who do we want to ask to vote on this poll? Right. We've got to find out who do we want to target with this? So we need to take inventory of our connections. We can do that by exporting our connections, and we can do that by searching our connections pretty simply. So now we identify all the VP of sales that I want to engage with, that I'm already connected to. And I say, these are people that I want to poll with. These are people I want to interview in a LinkedIn Live. These are whatever we put a process around the people we want to have conversations with. I can't tell you how many sales reps say to me, if I could just get more at bats, I'd thrive. My biggest problem is first conversations. But the problem is they want to talk about them and their solution too soon in the process. We need to start it around their point of view. We need to start around what they think, what they're going through, their challenges, the insights, maybe even that they can share. When they're sharing their insights, we also get their challenges. And when we can slow down the process and have a real legitimate conversation, their needs will come to the surface when the time is right. But if we go out and pitch too soon, so a connect and pitch is a bait and switch. We've got to get to pitch, but we've got to get to pitch when they're ready for it. When they're like, "Oh, tell me how that works for me. Tell me how that could how I could get that." And we've got to get them to ask for the pitch.
So they have to raise their hand for the pitch, and you do that through polls. But isn't that in itself, for someone like you and I, we get a bunch of polls and all these things. I kind of know that if I respond to this poll, I'm basically asking for a phone call. They're going to pitch me something.
Maybe, but so LinkedIn does something really brilliantly. You don't get to see the results unless you vote. So you're looking at this poll with questions that your peers are answering, and you can see 227 people voted on this. And I want to know the answer. I don't get to know the answer unless I vote. And that's one of the most brilliant things that LinkedIn ever did with polls.
It's very sneaky. Now, I noticed that a lot of people get it. I'll put out a video and get 100, 300, 500 views. But I put out a poll, I'll get 4,000.
Correct. Right now, polls are hot. Yeah. People, and here's the thing, the algorithm, and I'm not deep into algorithm, but there are some things that I find fascinating. The LinkedIn gives points if they like it, if they comment, if they share, like different points, right? So a reaction is so many points. A comment is more points, right? Comments on comments is even more points. A vote is worth all of those points together. So what happens when you get a vote? It's one of the most highly indexed in the algorithm. They go, "Oop, someone likes this, more people will like this. Someone likes this, more people will like this." And it stays high in the algorithm because that vote is worth so many points.
Wow.
That's right now, and that could change. But right now, that's what's working.
So now you had said earlier you want to target certain people. And yes, you could download and get the data from LinkedIn, or you could skim through it and do whatever you want to do. How do you direct it towards them? It's just you can put and put their name and put 100 people in there?
That's the worst thing to do. No. We do not want to mention people publicly that we don't have permission to do, or that are not the author of something. So if someone authored something and you share their content, you can mention their name, you can mention the publication. To me, that's public spamming, and it's a little icky. However, what you can do is at the bottom of every post, there's a little send airplane, like a little paper airplane, and I can get it into the inbox of people. So it is one at a time, and it's prospecting, guys. There's no pixie dust. It's prospecting, right? We're in sales. It's work. So we want to click the send button, and I type in Dan's name, or and I put a little note. Maybe I tailor it a little bit to Dan, right? And I get that into you. I'd really and tailor it. Don't make a templated message to every single person. But why are you asking them for their vote? Maybe you're only reaching out to 20 people. But the statistics currently are, if you reach out to 20 people to ask them to vote on this poll, 50% of them will vote. Think about that return on engagement. So we've identified 20 people in our network that we want to start a sales conversation with. We send all 20 a request for vote, and half of them vote. And these are even C-suite people. It's amazing because people want to see the results of the poll.
Do you also think too, Brynne, because it's so quick, like it's real easy to just kind of vote, and then maybe you'll get a comment, maybe you won't, but you're going to get, I could do this in 30 seconds. I have an opinion on this. Let me go ahead and do it.
Yeah. And we love it. And it's amazing how many people that I even talk to, C-level people, like, sure, I would do a one-click vote. I am not thinking that this is prospecting. I'm thinking that you're doing a little benchmark study. And by the way, I want to know how I benchmark to my peers. So if you're bringing this out, let's say we're all going VP and we're very clear, this is a poll for VP of sales, and that's who I'm going after, and I'm a VP of sales. I want to know what my peers are thinking and where they are. So the likelihood of me listening to you later about what you've gleaned from the study so that I can benchmark myself to my peers is a whole other level of game-changing fabulousness.
Wow. Okay.
That's
So
a lot
now
of syllables.
how do you encourage them? They've responded, they voted, you've given them the results, and you want to move that to the next level to gain enough curiosity. They say, how do you do that? Is there anything you can do to fix that? Or that is an issue to get them to where you're comfortable pitching.
Well, so, we get raised hands for pitches. This is very different than an inbound lead or someone who says, I want to know about your products or services. So we have to slow the sales process down. So the goal is, we've gleaned an enormous amount of insights. I've talked with lots of VPs on this topic. If you're like the other VPs I'm talking to, you're curious at where you're benchmarking with your peers, happy to jump on at like a 5-minute call, kind of should tell you, or a 15-minute call, share where you fall with other folks and what I'm hearing out there. They want to know. So now we're going to start with, and so this is how we would have the conversation. Thank you so much for jumping on this call with me today. I'm really excited to share with you the insights we gleaned from the poll that you participated in. But before I go into that, is there anything specific you were hoping we were going to cover on our call today? Because if there is a need or a want, I want to know that right up front. Because they may invite the pitch right away, right? So we want to make sure that, and often, most of the time at that point, they're like, no, I just curious. What did you uncover? Okay, great. So in the conversation, we talk about, well, here's why we asked the question, because this is the challenge that we're seeing out there. So we want to start talking about that, right? Typically, that's a challenge we solve, but this is why we asked the question. And here's what we're seeing. VPs of companies are seeing this, and some of what and I collected some of their comments, and I've now had conversations with some of them. And, so they're feeling this challenge. It looks like you have a little bit of a different challenge based on your vote. And so we have this conversation that's all insightful, but it keeps bringing the challenge up to the surface. Now, sometimes I'll say, well, we do face the other one a little bit too. And it's just a conversation. I'm not pitching. Yeah. We're just having a chat. The transition is different though. The transition now is like, what do I do? Now we've had this chat. And I might just say, you know what? It sounds like, you're kind of smack dab in the middle of what all the other VPs are feeling challenged today. You do have this covered where a lot of people don't, but it looks like there's a little gap here. I actually worked with a client a couple months ago that had a similar problem. Can I share that story with you? And now I transition the call from this insights call. We're talking about the poll to now we're talking about how we helped a client solve a similar challenge with permission, by the way. I asked, can I share that story with you? So I have permission now to move it from here's the poll, here are the challenges we just talked about, here's how we've solved that. And then at the end, it's like, well, I hope you got some real insights from the things that we shared around the poll. I'd like to open it up to you. Are you interested in learning how we might be able to help you the same way we helped this other client? And then we close for the pitch.
You close for the pitch, and do you give the pitch right there, or do you close for an appointment to set it up?
Yeah, that is a whole other question in and of itself. So I hate to say it depends, but it depends. If you've done some social listening, which we didn't talk about the social listening on specific prospects, you may have buyer mapped out that there are 4 or 5 people that belong in that pitch. So you may have identified before you got on that call the other folks that should be in the room. Yeah, that person is not always the only, and usually not the only decision maker. So at that point, we have a couple ways. We can mini pitch if they want. But where I really want to go is, I'm really excited to share some of these insights with you. I happen to notice that, Jane and Fred and Anne are all folks in your organization that may get some value from this conversation as well. Can we schedule? Do you have the ability to schedule time with them? Right.
Right.
A lot of companies, they can open up the calendar and just stick it in their calendar. So we can get it scheduled. They may push back. And if they push back, they may say, whoa, okay, well, let me go through a little bit about what we would cover. And then you can determine if you think it makes sense to bring them in. And then you go to the mini pitch there.
Good. Yeah. So you're following. These are good old school sales techniques that you're just going back in. Do you find that, especially when you're dealing with C-suite people who have been through this process a billion times, if they accept your 5-minute call, they kind of expect that you're going to offer them something at the end, do they not?
Potentially, but we have to earn the right, and they didn't take our call for that reason. So we don't want to, if we immediately connect and pitch, it's a bait and switch. Because we scheduled this to share insights that we gleaned from the poll, we need to make sure we deliver on that promise, or how can they trust us in the sales cycle moving forward, let alone working with us?
That's exactly right. So the reason why I want to say that is, one of my tenets of that I encourage all my team to do is I call it like irrational, radical honesty, like straight up on the front end. I just go right into it. So when I would get on a call like that, I'd say, listen, I know you've been through this a million times and you're expecting a pitch at the end. I'm going to let you know you're going to be disappointed if that's what you want, if that's what you're expecting. Unless you ask for it, and then I'm here for you. All right. But let's go into and so I want to right at the beginning, let them know what to expect very directly. And I think people in the higher level you get, the more direct they're comfortable being.
I think the more authentic we can be, the more trustful, the more they'll trust us. And the more they trust us, the higher the credibility, and the more likely they'll choose us to do business with when the time is right.
Yes. And even if they don't do business right there, I'm sure you've probably experienced situations on calls like that didn't work for them, but they referred you to somebody else and recommended you.
Or years later, they have a new job in a place where they need it and they call on you. Oh, yeah. Tons of times over. And it's been fabulous. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why we always say, when the time is right, the sale will happen.
In that vein, just today, while making my calls that I talked about earlier, I talked to someone who I haven't spoken with in years, Larry McGill, great guy. And years ago, I met him when I had a staffing company, and he was really down on his luck. To the point where he was this happens in the staffing business. Sometimes people, you get them a job and then you lend them money before they get paid and stuff like that, whatever. So it was one of those things. And I just called him to see how he's doing right now. And, building a $15 million mansion in La Jolla somewhere. And, just having, he said, listen, right now, look at his picture. He was like right in front of he was like on 57th Street or something, looking out over Central Park, just doing really well all this time, and said, I'm glad you called. I wonder if you could help me with something. With is just someone years later that you just, befriended. So these types of conversation, I'm saying this because many people are afraid to even create some sort of dialogue with their connections on LinkedIn. How do you get people to overcome that fear?
Well, look, I tell everyone, these are human beings on the other side of this message, right? If in today's hybrid world, where so much of our connection to human beings is digital, we've got to start treating this as our in-person networking events. So you want to treat the person on the other side of the message the same way you would if they were on the other side of the table. We've got to get over the fear of what rejection. If you were in a networking room and you walked up to someone and you said, if I go, hi, I'm Brynne Tillman, I help companies just like yours. Yeah, I'm going to get rejected in person. So don't do it online, right? You're getting rejected because you are treating human beings like leads instead of human. They're not a lead until they raise their hand and say, I'm interested, in my opinion. A name is not a lead. I don't walk into a trade show and see thousands of people and go, look at all my leads. We don't do that, right? We have conversations first and then determine whether or not this is an opportunity. And if we look at LinkedIn as like this lead list that we purchased, it's never going to work. So the people that are afraid to do this tried it the wrong way, got rejected and say, LinkedIn doesn't work because they didn't work it the right way.
Well, this is great. Chris Stone, we need to have more women on. This is great. I'm getting a whole new perspective. We need more diversity and inclusion and all that stuff. And all that stuff. I think this is great because what happens is when a lot of women on LinkedIn don't put all their information out there. They don't put their telephone numbers. They don't, for
and a lot of us do. I would not make that assumption.
That what?
I'm all out there. My cell phone is everywhere. I want conversations.
I understand. But that's the point I'm making. But, there's not all in anything, but I find that most are still carrying on. How does a woman overcome that thing of being able to be, out there, but not vulnerable?
I'm going to push back on this. Women are great at being vulnerable, even in business, actually. So I'm just pushing back. Women
feel free.
Dominating sales. We are very comfortable having conversations digitally as much as anyone else. So I think all things being equal, although there may be some different tendencies, generally we're rocking sales. And so and I think the ability to empathize with folks also really important. So
yeah, no, I always think women are much better salespeople when they get out there and do that. And so are you saying?
I'm just not good with the whole generalization across the board, I guess is what I'm saying. In today's world, like we all have our pros and cons. Some people may say there's a lot of masculinity in the way that I am. And some people may say, hey, there's a lot of femininity in the way that you are. Regardless, I think it's about being, and you said this earlier, it's about being authentic. It's about being truthful and upfront. It's about building that trust and credibility. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or you're a woman. If your intentions are to truly help your prospects succeed, you will succeed in social selling and sales generally.
Yeah, I love that. And, we're going to go back to putting your LinkedIn profile here up on the screen because Dan asked for it and it's his show, Brynne. So,
yeah.
I can only do so much, but it didn't take me long, Brynne, to get to this post, which is actually from a year ago this week.
We have a new one that's redone. That's going out tomorrow, which is
similar. Okay, well, this is good. Then you can read that tomorrow too, right? And so 7 ways to show your LinkedIn network how much you're thankful for them. Number 1, endorse your connections on LinkedIn. Not enough people take the time to do that, Brynne. And then all of a sudden you get a surprise from somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And what do? You feel a sense of obligation a little bit, right? But you're also like, I got to pass that on, right? I got to pay that forward. Let me do more of that. So that's awesome. Make warm introductions, engage on and with their content. Mm-hmm. Again, not something we do enough, right? I mean, just jumping in and throw something in a comment, let people know that that doesn't take much, right? Write a recommendation, send them valuable content. Send them a personalized video, a la Doug Lehman and Lehman.
Yeah, I love that.
Does that all the time, and giving kudos. This is a great post.
Thank you. I'd like to say, make sure everything you do, and this is to Dan, right? Be authentic in all of this, right? That's part of your brand. And even to the point where you're saying upfront on every call, what you're going to make sure that if you endorse someone, you know that they're good at what you're endorsing. Make sure if you make warm introductions that it's valuable to both parties.
Right.
When you engage on their content, read their content. Don't just say nice post. Really read it and say, your perspective on this was really meaningful. Obviously, if you write a recommendation, it's got to be someone that you really, really value because you're putting your name behind them.
Right.
The valuable content. The valuable content to me is where a lot of people mess up. Mm-hmm. Because what's valuable to me is not typically what's valuable to my prospects or my network. So we have to determine what is going to help them succeed, not what's going to help me get a sale. So I think that's really important. Personalized video is great. And kudos is fun. It's just a public postcard that thanks them for being awesome.
Yes, and everybody likes it, and it makes the giver feel just as good as the person who receives it.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
And I think if you just, like, to your point, just adding something like nice post or whatever, try to add value to that person's post, because that not only helps them, but it helps you, because people see that post and people see you and go, well, wow, who's this Brynne person who commented and said something that I totally agree with? And there you go.
And you have to be careful. I grew up in the suburbs of New York, so I'm pretty blunt. So I have to edit before I publish.
Right.
I can say something very quickly that people, if I look, it's not meant in any way offensive, but it can be taken that way. So I have to edit and re-edit, because my natural ability is to be in your face. That's just who I am. But when you're seeing someone face to face, or you're having a conversation, it's potentially a different perspective than if you read it. You don't always know the intention when you're reading something. So you have to, if you are sharing your opinion, this is from my own personal experience, read it from an outside perspective and say, am I ruffling feathers? Because my goal is not to be right. It's to start conversations. So one thing I learned a very long time ago, because I had a natural, it's like the sales competitiveness in me, possibly the masculine side, I'm not sure, right? But that sales where I need to be right. I need to prove I'm right. They're wrong. Their opinion is wrong. I need to prove I'm right. And you break everything when you come at it with, I'm right, you're wrong. And so I learned a couple things in improv, to yes and everything. I don't know if you've ever done any improv classes. Best thing ever.
Right. Yes and
right. Everything. Yes, that's brilliant. And right, another perspective may be, so when you can come from this yes and, you rarely ruffle feathers. So I love bringing in your perspective. I hate to say be politically correct, but if your goal is to start conversations with people, you have to kind of weave that in a little bit.
Very interesting. Yeah. So where are you from?
This New Jersey side of New York.
Like Edgewater or
a little south of there, Union County.
Union County. Okay, I'm from Fair Lawn, Bergen County.
I'm moving back to Essex County. I'm outside Philadelphia now, but I have a new grandbaby in Essex County.
Oh, do you?
I want to be close. I do.
Yeah. Well, it's still this. It's all the same. New Jersey. New Jersey's great. Everybody is mean and kind at the same time. It's.
And I've had to work on that, because it's, if you're not from where I grew up, I could be offensive. I mean, because I'm just in your face the way it is. I tell it, you never have to guess, right? It is the way it is. So, but it's interesting. It's been a wonderful, I moved to Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. I married Philly. I've been here my whole career and most of my adult life. But, still, I'm Jersey girl in my core. And so now I get to move back, which is really fun.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, New Jersey, Delaware, and, Philly, I mean, you're right around each other. Everything's a half hour away. But in any event, so you do that. And I ruffle feathers too. I've gotten to the point where I just don't care or anything. But in a personal situation, sometimes clients become friends or friends become clients or what have you.
Yeah.
And then there's family issues. And so I've taken upon this way to deal with it too, because sometimes you fall into that thing. Listen, I know you think you're right, but you're flat out wrong. I mean, totally opposite, whatever. And so what I've done is I have letters that I write to them and never send.
I love that.
And it's the most, I have a file of letters not sent. And
that is such a great, if you do that for your clients,
Oh, it's
What
too
a great sales book that would make.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's letters never sent. But that it what it does is both sides. It allows me to get it out, and then it's done. The weirdest thing is when you write it, it's gone. You no longer harbor that need to be right anymore. You've already put it out there, and it's in that thing, and no one ever knows. I learned that from a guy named Abraham Lincoln.
I've heard of him.
Yes,
I heard he was a pretty great guy.
When he died, there's a million biographies about Lincoln, and I've read probably 600 of them. Everyone comes from a different angle. They're beautiful. It's really, but they all agree on this. When he died, they went through all his papers and they found several letters written actually to McClellan, to the generals when they failed miserably. And they knew that they failed miserably, and he wrote letters to them, chastising them for lunacy and not taking advantage of situations, but realized it had no point. What would happen if they got it?
I love that. So a lot, especially in business, and I guess in personal too, you want to look at, what do I want to get at the end of this interaction?
Yes.
Do I want to be right, or do I want conversations? Do I want to be right, or do I want to build rapport with prospects and referral partners?
And also, do I want this person as a client? If it's starting off like this, is this, are we in the same, do we have the same goals? The worst thing is never being satisfied. Let me ask you something from as a New Jersey gal. And again, we're more direct. I'm telling you, the play, I tell lots of stories from going to New Jersey, but my famous, actually, Gittimer too, right?
Very well.
Yeah.
I have a whole tangent story on that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to tell it, but
well, actually, well, please do. But he always does, he taught me, New Jersey's a place, up yours is a greeting. That's what they, that's how you get started over there.
So I'm going to tell you
your story.
Gittimer story. About 8.5 years ago, maybe a little over 8 years ago, I spoke at a group in New York City, and a woman in the audience afterwards came up to me, lovely, and said, "I just quit my VP of sales job today. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Can I hire you for a half day to just sit in my condo and let me I don't do that. I do LinkedIn." She goes, "No, I like the way you think." So she hired me for a half day. We sat in her gorgeous condo in the Upper East Side. And at the end of it, I said, "I don't think you're a sales manager. I think you'd be a great sales trainer." She goes, "Oh, I don't know where to begin." I said, "Go take a Jeffrey Gittimer class." She said, "Oh, who's Jeffrey Gittimer?" So I connected her. And she's now his wife, Jen Gittimer.
Oh, that's Jen? That
was Jennifer. So,
wow.
Yeah. Yep. So good. That's I think I have a lot of positive juju in that realm now. So.
Co-host of that podcast. It's a fantastic
Sell
podcast.
or Die.
Sell or Die. Right. She's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's there not to say because of me, because she earned every single moment of it, but she met Jeffrey because of me.
I was there when she went to that course. It was a book course that I was there. Jeffrey and I had done some things, and I met her, and then we talked again after that, and she said, "I'm with Jeffrey now." I go, "What do you mean with Jeffrey?" She's, but she's they're terrific. Well, excellent. So back to my question. So direct, in your face, all this stuff. How do you ask for the order?
I think it naturally happens, right? So and by the way, I teach how to get the first call. I know I talked about the first call. I am not a sales trainer because I was only good at it. I wasn't great. I am a LinkedIn sales trainer because I'm great at that.
Okay.
So I can talk about the methodology to close the business, but I'd rather talk about how do you close the first call? Because that's where I'm
good. Okay, good.
Because I think that's where I'm really good. I want to finish with we talked about the first 4. I just want to mention number 5, just so it closes the loop, because we had profile, social listening, Content for nurturing your connections. Content, we talked about polls, but content also. Nurturing your connections, restarting those conversations by taking inventory, and warm market introductions is number 5. How am I identifying? So warm market prospecting. How am I identifying who in my network can help me gain access to my buyers? So that's like absolutely critical. Those are the 5 pillars of social selling for sure. To get to the first conversation, we're going to go back to, we have to earn the right. Again, salespeople say, if I could just get more first conversations, I'd be fine. Once I get them on a call, the hardest thing is earning the right to get that time. And we need to do that by mastering the ask offer ratio. And this is something that I learned about through Keenan's book, Gap Selling, where he just talked about, so I've taken it to a different level. He knows, he's heard me talk about this. Mastering the ask offer ratio is, at any point in time, I am trading you some kind of content or a solution for your time. So if it's 5 minutes to read my profile, or 3 minutes to read my note, or 30 seconds to vote on a poll, at the end of that interaction, I have one of 3 reactions. That was a bait and switch, which means immediately it became a pitch, and that's not why I showed up. It's neutral, so it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help you get the call, but it doesn't hurt your reputation. Or it's compelling. And we're going back to, we're moving them from lurkers to engagers. It compels them to like, comment, engage, react, ask you to connect, accept your connection request. We cannot do anything unless we've created a compelling moment, because we don't know who they are until they've been compelled to react in some way or another. So starting the conversation starts with getting them interested enough to raise their hand in the slightest way, so that you know that there's some kind of interest. But what you have to always do is, there's got to be a 1-2 punch with everything you put out there. I put out a poll. I know what my follow-up is. I put out an article. I know what podcast I'm going to share. I engage, maybe all of my prospects are engaging in Brynne Brown content. So I've got all these commenters that I want to prospect. Well, let's pretend that Brynne Brown is the keynote and all these people are in the audience and I'm networking with them. And what would the conversation be? The conversation would be
about Brynne Brown. Yeah.
You're a Brynne Brown fan, so am I. Did you hear the podcast she was on 2 weeks ago? I'd happy to share you that link. Is that, and we're having a conversation on Brynne Brown and say, hey, what do you think about social selling? Is that high on your list of things that you're interested in? I have some of my own content that I think could be helpful as someone in sales. Are you interested? Let me know. I'm happy to send it. And it's this natural conversation where there are these little tiny opt-ins, right? It's just these little tiny opt-ins that get into, if you found value in that, I noticed a couple of things on your profile. I'd be happy to share, some of my insights. If you're open, we can just jump on a call. Right. And so
it's that process. You get their attention, you find out their interest, you convict their interest by them raising their hand, you develop that desire, and then it gives you the ability to close. So that's just straight up old school, baby.
It's old school.
Yeah.
If you look at my bio, I take the traditional sales process and I adopt it to digital sales. I have not invented anything. I've just learned how to leverage LinkedIn to use what I've learned and done my whole life.
Yeah. And you're coming from the right place. You're coming from that place of conversation and help. Hey, if you're interested in this, I got something I could hook you up. If you're not, no big deal. It's
all permission based, by the way.
Yeah.
I almost never send a link without permission. Hey, I'm not sure if this is a hot topic for you, but if it is, I just put out, I have a 45-minute podcast on this, minute 12, we talk about this, and this. If you're interested, if you think that's something that could help your team, let me know. I'll send it over to you.
Yeah. So this is all that attention stuff. This is great. That's full on prospecting.
100%. There's nothing new.
Yeah, actually Jen Gittimer, she's changed the word. I used to say follow up, but she calls it following through, which I think is even more.
I love that.
Yeah,
she has magical words.
Yeah, that's hers. She won't follow. She follows through. That's excellent. So tell us about your podcast. How long have you been doing it?
I think we're on episode 37, maybe something like that.
Wow.
We have a lot of fun. It's a combination. Every other podcast is an interview, and then it's just the three of us. Like there's 3 client-facing folks, Bill McCormick, Bob Woods, and myself, and we just rant on a topic. So and so there's LinkedIn insights, but we also interview other people. And if the show is called Making Sales Social, it's literally what are we doing to, bring the traditional sales, so we talk to traditional sales experts, and then we say, so how would you do that on LinkedIn? What would you do? How would you do that digitally? This is how we do it digitally.
Well, that's dynamite. And so you said 36, but how many have you been doing it a year, or is this just in 1 year you've gotten that many, or you've been doing it forever?
So I think it's terrible. I think we launched in July.
Oh, wow.
I think. And we have like 25 more in the can, so we're way ahead.
Oh, that's cool. And you got to say in the can, which is just a fun thing to say. We
love in the can. Ring the bell. Anytime somebody says in the can. Big fans of in the can.
That's of it. Well,
yeah, here are the one of these guys. Is it Bob that calls himself the LinkedIn Sherpa, and you're the LinkedIn Whisperer? So,
and then
how does
Bill is the authentic social seller, I think.
I
don't know. One day we got together and said, what's our superhero names? So.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
What's your superhero name, Chris Stone?
Chris Stone. I don't know. I don't know if I have I
don't know. Looking at this you're like the age of my kids probably, but looking at this fact, I would say Romancing the Stone would be a wonderful name.
Oh no! Listen,
yeah, okay.
Chris Stone, by the way, is much
Cold.
younger than he looks younger than he is, and he knows every reference to every song or movie, from 1977 on.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was because I spent 30 years in the music business. So I know everything there is to know about bad music.
Who sang that song? He's romancing the stone, never leaving his poor heart alone. Who sang it?
I don't know that song.
Every night and every day. Come on.
Don Johnson.
I have no idea who it is. I just expected you to know it. Is that
Don
right?
Johnson, the guy who was in Miami Vice, the actor from Miami Vice.
He sang Romancing the Stone?
That's hysterical.
Right,
I'm pretty sure. Brynne, I'm not used to all these questions. I'm not the one that's on the hot seat over here.
So Brynne Tillman, who should get in touch with you, and how can they get in touch with you?
If you are looking to grow your business and LinkedIn is an untapped resource for you, or a slowly dripping tap resource for you, let's chat. I mean, there's lots of ways to follow. You follow our podcast, Making Sales Social. We've got lots of blogs and lots of great content. We have LinkedInlibrary.com has a ton of free content. And if you want to look at how to work with us, if you are an entrepreneur or a salesperson who's not getting support from your company and need to do it on your own, you can look at socialsaleslink.com/store, and we've got some products there. And then, our biggest business, we have a membership, but our biggest business is that we help really corporate teams leverage LinkedIn and Sales Navigator.
Well, that is terrific. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on today and playing with us the day before of giving thanks. Big plans?
I'm cooking tonight. Tomorrow I go to my daughter's in-laws and spend time with my little grandbaby Stella Ray. And then Friday I go to my daughter's. Yeah, Stella, it's a long weekend of eating lots of food. I'm cooking tonight. But because it's a full week of turkey, I just decided I ordered 8 Boston Market chickens quartered. So we're just having chicken with all the fixins tonight because we're going to get sick of turkey.
Yeah, that's terrific. But do you have any special dishes that you make?
my special dishes, my family dishes are all around Passover and a little bit of Hanukkah. But
you're Jewish? Oh, Tillman. Yeah, I guess Tillman is Jewish.
Except that my husband's not Jewish, and that's his last name. But I am Jewish. My kids are Jewish. Yes, it's the New York in me. No, you're kidding.
Well, so because my wife's a shiksa, and so our children are raised Christian.
So my husband, well, my kids are raised Jewish. So, but we do everything. We have Christmas. We have all kinds of. We do everything, and we don't do Kwanzaa, but I'd be open to it for sure.
Do you do Festivus?
But my special recipes are like in the back of the canned green beans. It says buy Campbell soup. That's my recipe. Yeah. I buy the canned yams with marshmallows. That's my recipe.
Oh, that's
so it's traditional Thanksgiving the way that consumer market wants it to be. But I'll do some really good latkes and some matzo ball soup for Hanukkah.
Oh, you can't hang with my mind. Say, here's the trick with the matzo ball soup. Do you use seltzer when you put into the matzo balls or the water?
I do cheat. I buy them from a place called Pumpernicks. It's a local deli. I got to do it. They're so good.
No, I'm telling you, here's the secret. All right. Here's the secret. Instead of the matzo meal, but instead of oil, cook yourself some chicken soup and let it sit overnight and take the schmaltz off the top of it, when it kind of gets cold, and use the schmaltz instead of the oil, and then you use it for the water, use a little seltzer. Holy crap. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's real. Like, what was your grandmother? My grandmother was Dubby. What was your grandmother?
Bubby.
Yes.
I'm Bubby.
Oh, you're Bubby? I had a
Memya
and a Dubby, and you're Bubby. Chris Stone is like, what's going on? Yeah, never.
Yeah, going over here, just going. What are you guys talking about? But it sounds delicious.
I was in but that's funny. When I moved down here and I married a non-Jew, and she asked me, the mom asked me the same thing. What are some Thanksgiving things that you used to do special? And I'm like, kugel? I don't know. What are you? I don't know. Whatever. And so I've gotten into the broccoli casserole. That's it. All right. Well, Chris Stone, here's something that I learned when I was that Brynne Tillman will understand. Because it's funny. I was in Florida. I'm in Florida and I'm in a Publix. Before Publix was all over the place, so we're just in Florida. And I saw this this grandmother, and she was talking to her granddaughter right there. And I didn't hear the whole conversation, but all I heard as she was walking by is, never trust the goyim. And so I thought to myself, I know it was just like a crazy thing. So we have secret words there, Chris Stone. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of the Goyim and everybody else. Thank you so much, Brynne Tillman, for hanging out. She was worried about saying things off color. She didn't realize who she was dealing with, Chris Stone.
Got nothing.
Fun.
Chris Stone, thank you so much for the world's best producer, Brynne Tillman. Get the word out if you ever need an awesome producer. He's there with great video stuff. You guys watching are the best. I'm the Deej. We'll see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving and go get them today.